The latest in Carolina, Adam.
Well, Laura, Dave Canales, the Panthers head coach, announced that Bryce Young is being benched in favor of Andy Dalton, the former first-round draft pick they once gave up a lot of draft picks for, is now on the bench, and Andy Dalton is the new starting quarterback in Carolina. If you saw Bryce Young the first week of the season with Dave Canales on the bench, he looked like a broken quarterback. His play has not improved. Clearly, the team did not feel like it could win with him, and it moved in a different direction today. This represents, I believe, the fastest that we've ever seen a former #1 overall pick at quarterback benched 2 games into his second season. And keep in mind, Laura, that the Chicago Bears still own the Panthers' second-round pick in 2025, which looks like it could be at the top of the second round.
Yeah, Adam, so many of us have been fans of Bryce Young, and we'll keep an eye on how all of this unfolds, plus potential new teams for him. Who knows? Bryce Young is 2-16 as the starter in his career, the worst of any quarterback with at least 10 starts in the last 10 seasons. He ranks last in the league in completion percentage, yards per attempt, and off-target percentage. Zach Wilson, the only quarterback with a worse QBR since Bryce entered the league. Here's Dave Canales from moments ago, new on NFL Live.
After yesterday, just went home, watched the film, had some conversations with coaches, with Dan Brandt. So had to gather a lot of information through this morning and made that decision after looking at it that this is the best decision for our group, for our team going forward. We want to play more football. A lot of factors that go into it, for this decision, and ultimately just kind of lands on my shoulders to be able to make the best decision for our group, to give us our best chance to win this week. And we focus on the weeks, we focus on the challenge at hand, and we feel like Andy gives us our best chance to meet the challenge.
A gutsy decision, one way or the other, no matter how you look at it. Dan, do you agree with it, though, by Canales to bench Bryce Young?
The play warrants it, yeah. I think Bryce Young is done in Carolina. I really do. I wanted to be disciplined with how I was going to look at Bryce and evaluate him this season because I know it's not a good situation, but there was no improvement.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that is shocking, candidly. I missed on Bryce. And you don't make this decision unless, 1, you're already good with moving on with him in your mind, or 2, you're going to completely lose your locker room. And if you're going to lose your locker room after 2 weeks, it's not just 2 weeks in the regular season of it not going well. This has to be a training camp long experience.
Well, the other piece of it is, too, 1, you have to say kudos to Coach Canales for making this decision because it's extremely difficult. But it also shows that he's not tied to Bryce Young in any way. He didn't go to the executives and to ownership and say, we want to take Bryce Young over C.J. Stroud. That was done by Frank Wright and his staff. So they have no connection. He isn't tied to him in a way that his job depends on Bryce Young's development. I love what he said about we're focused on what gives us the best opportunity to win this week.
Yeah.
He's not talking about the future and continuing to build. He's saying we can't play high enough level football to evaluate anything Sunday to Sunday as long as he's the quarterback. And so we're going to make that move to Andy Dalton. I believe this is the right move at this time, especially if you've decided you're done with Bryce Young for good.
Yeah, Adam pointed out that this might be the fastest ever for a 1-1, but there is pretty recent precedent of teams moving on maybe quicker than they did in the past, going back to Arizona with Josh Rosen, more recently Pittsburgh, Kenny Pickett, and in most cases it usually ends up being the right decision to pull, rip the Band-Aid and make that call now. I echo your guys' thoughts on what this means from a team perspective, because as much as we can say this season was about evaluating Bryce Young, improving the circumstances around it, you also have to build a football team.
Yeah.
And it got to a point, I thought, early in the season where the quarterback play was so bad, you can't evaluate anyone else, whether it's Xavier Legette, right, or you trade for Deontay Johnson. And you need a quarterback like Andy Dalton who can come in and at least give them a fighting chance so that they can assess those other players.
A veteran presence is what Andy Dalton brings, but like a calm spirit that you may have an opportunity to win a game. And with Bryce, it never was that feeling. We don't have an opportunity to win the game. So it kind of plays into the ties of the locker room. But the other thing is this, man. This is a humbling, unforgiving league.
Brutal.
Like, it's week to week. You go from the outhouse to the penthouse in a matter of 7 days. That's how I was raised in this league. And for Bryce now, it's about how he handles this. Like, if you want to be an NFL quarterback, your attention to detail in the place that you are has to be at a high level, but the place that you're going as well.
You know, I watched him all through college. I watched you all get us ready for the draft that year with incredible highlight film. Is he done in the NFL, Dan, or do you still think there's more to give? Maybe he didn't give a fair enough shake with what was around him?
He's done in Carolina.
Yeah.
Done in the NFL is probably rich for me. I do think his confidence and his belief in himself is completely gone. Someone will have to come trade for Bryce Young. I know Ben Solak has mentioned the Miami Dolphins being a location. That makes a lot of sense. No one else in my mind makes sense right now for him. He's going to have to rebuild himself from confidence.
And also, too, though, what is the one thing you've seen through 18 games you feel like he brings when you get him in your locker room?
It's just crazy,
right?
RC, to watch a young man in the SEC be dominant.
Yeah. And here's what we've all said we were wrong. We were actually not wrong. We watched the film, and when you watch the film, it said that this young man could be confident in his abilities because every weekend he went out and proved it. As soon as it started to go bad, I believe his confidence went with that, and there was no one there to empower him by the way that they treated him or by the way that they schemed around him.
I was wrong, and I didn't think it would be like this. And what really jumps out to me, and it's something I think we're going to have this conversation in the future, I underestimated how big of an impact his height would have on his play. And watching the tape, it shows up.
Yeah.
Now, that's not to say he can't play quarterback in the league. It's going to have to look very different. And obviously, there are smaller quarterbacks, Kyler's balling out, who have very different qualities in terms of their mobility and arm strength. But that, to me, was a factor that I, hand up, truly underestimated.
Sure.